I remember. I remember being told that if this continues, our children will inhabit a wilderness. And they will inherit nothing but desolate land. I never believed it. I was one of many, you see, with both feet in a dull England, both hands on the monotony of family labour, but a mind which was full of adventure. I remember. As a lad I would stalk the schoolyard, head low and a stick clutched in my hand, when my friend Bertie would emerge from the other side of it with his toy plane whistling as it soared up all 3 feet and bounding towards me grinning. I would raise the stick and shoot it, throwing Bertie to the ground and rendering me the lunchtime victory. Bang, bang, Bertie, you're dead, Bertie, I would say, and we would run home happy through the streets of England. It was when I was older, an adult I felt, 15 or 16 I was, that I started seeing Lord Kitchener on a daily basis. I didn't know what he was doing round here at first. The Lord on my street seemed unlikely, but he was. Pointing right at every young man in England, calling them up to join their brothers, to leave behind their boring finger-to-bone hardship and be paid to pursue adventure, to venture foreign lands, while defending their own, to explore new worlds, to be heroes. There was even this boy from Ireland I heard, 9 years old, who sent a letter to Lord Kitchener asking to go to the front, informing Kitchener he had won fights with lads twice his size. So let's be honest, how bad could it be to venture deep green lanes while defending our home, to explore wide rolling downs, to be heroes? My sweetheart tells me she will wait for me. I'll keep her picture right here in my locket, and a photo of my mum. Should the lads make fun, I will keep that one in my pocket. I remember vividly. I was smiling as I left. Bertie was there too. As were many other boys our age, we grinned and joked in the railway carriages as we set course. Homs and Chafoo were the names of the carriages. We shared our transport with horses when we went to the front. When we went to the front, what did I know? I knew only what I had been told. What did I know? Have you ever? Have you ever trudged with a gun through the Western Front in thick woolen khaki-dyed tunic, ammunition boots torn up from the mud as our army of boys kept moving? This was not some sacred land we had come to. We were not greeted by honeysuckle sunshine. There was no majesty of creation before us. There was no light in the sky. Everything was dead. This land was an endless woods of skeleton trees, lifeless in the mist, in the midst of attack, ground littered with shell holes and sludge which sigh under the drab ghosts of the clouds, a quicksand of impassable sucking mud which bogs down the wounded and returns them to the earth they come from. There is much impurity in the soil. Have you ever gone days without sleep? We have not washed in weeks, and we fight an invisible enemy. See, they could dig beneath our trenches and set off mines below us. One cannot sleep when that plays on his mind. Have you ever sat in the rain, coated in wet clay, singing "It's a Long Way to Tipperary," or been exposed to the deadly power of modern weapons as shrapnel shells burst overhead and explosive bullets you had thought were forbidden curse the very air you breathe? Have you ever experienced that? How fast can you run? We ran at the enemy, guns roaring against the night, groups of teenage lads knowing they will die, so dedicating their last moments to a blind fury. Some falling to the quagmire, unable to come free of it, others unarmed and wounded, struggling past to be mown down like dogs. Fall here. Good men, brave men of England who wave a Union Jack against the gunfire and die with their brothers before their lives had even begun. Soon they will be buried in unmarked graves, some in a foot of water, as a clergyman reads, "Man that is born of a woman." There will be many a mourner in England tonight. Many widows and spinsters will be born of tonight and keep photographs of uniformed men on their mantelpiece, and my girl is still waiting for me, I hope. But for all she knows, I could have died a long time ago. It was Christmas Day, and we were but winter warriors in a sheer barren land of snow. Curled in our trenches, it was dead silent. Then we saw something. Only one of us noticed it at first, then we all did. In the distance, a German flag, waving above a trench on the tip of a rifle. We said nothing. And there was a German that spoke. "Are you as fed up with the war as we are?" He said it in perfect English. Bertie was the first to leave our trench. I thought he was mad. I tried to get him to come back. You see, usually just sticking your head above the trench will get you shot, but no one fired. Soon our trenches were empty, as were the German trenches. We were all stood in the no man's land that divided us, laughing and joking. England and Germany together. We exchanged cigarettes and chocolates. It's strange, I had almost forgotten what chocolates tasted like. We had snowball fights, the best I'd ever had. They showed us their trenches. They were 10 times worse than ours. They were losing, they knew they were, but they had to keep on fighting for the fatherland. We wished each other luck before we returned to our trenches. And the no man's land was once again empty. Soon we would return to killing each other. It felt strange that I could have killed the brother of a man who I had spent Christmas with, but all is strange here. For a child cannot find comfort from frightened adults, and the tenderness of these great, rough men is surprising. We spend days discussing our loved ones, but our letters home never say quite the same thing when they are read as when they were written. And the weather is worsening. It's now more us against the weather than us against Germany. We crouch on guard constantly, faces blue and cold and drawn by hunger. In this land, mud is victorious, and all is wrecked beyond recognition. If this was to happen in England, people cannot realise what war is. It was one particular night that all hell came to earth. It was quiet at first. Then came the gunfire, and this was nothing new. It did not even concern me anymore, but there was something more foreboding. We all felt it. No one spoke, but I could see it in the eyes. Then the gas hit. The tear gas, and we were temporarily blinded and scuttling in our trenches as shots and shouts rang out into the night. Then we were pushed by our sergeants over the brink of the trenches. As I went, I saw a young lad clutching his rifle shakily, aiming into nothingness, shouted at by men on either side with nowhere to go and far from home, gripping the trigger with a tear in his eye. Then I was gone. Storming through a field of bullets, boys beside me shot down as we ran, some armed with only sticks of barbed wire to raid the trenches. We were in it till the end now. This time there was no turning back. fall here. Good men, brave men of England, line after line disappearing into the mist, firing blindly as Bertie died beside me and I could not stop to help him. Bang, Bertie, I ran. I ran until I felt my heart giving way as all around me earth was blown to the sky and the very devil was breathing down my back, but I defied him. I kept running, but there I stopped. And I looked upon something so awesome that the power of it could have laid me to rest itself. The whole horizon was on fire. Then nothing. When I awoke to silence. Deadly silence. Silence I had not heard since England. It was unnerving that a touch of home could be with me here. The land near swallowed me. I was bogged down in mud, one hand grasping the locket containing the photo of my sweetheart, the other gripping the pocket which contained the photo of my mother. I was alone, and face to face with a rat. Both of us as filthy and overrun with lice, both as hairy and grimy. It considered me for a moment, saw me as no threat, and then continued on past into the vast carcass of earth. I was alone, and calling into the darkness, praying to be found by a friend, not an enemy, but with no response. Eventually, I mustered the strength to drag myself back to the trenches. I had torn my leg open somehow, and I was crawling, but breathing. Which is a lot for me. It is a blessing for me, for as I struggled to our trenches, there were faces in the mud. Everyone was dead. The cesspit strewn with bodies so mauled I would be unable to tell if they were English or German. Tongues hanging limply from mouths, eyes bulging in sockets. These trenches were now just heaps of bloody earth, and all my friends were gone. 1,000,000 lives gone. No material thing can justify or compensate that. And what future doctors, politicians, writers, artists lay among them. They will be remembered, smiling and waving at their mothers on their first day at school. Their mothers who had loved them and raised them what they could have become. Good men, brave men of England. Where have they gone? The ones who returned. Deformed faces, personality not the same as when they left. The ones who did not, well, I see them sometimes. Late at night I see them in a line, marching, with smiles on faces like boys on an adventure, to venture foreign lands, while defending their own, to explore new worlds, to be heroes. And then they fade. They fade away into air right in front of my eyes, still grinning, laughing and joking away as if they never really existed, until all that's left is a field of poppies. We were not greeted by fields of flowers. We were replaced by fields of flowers. And I wondered, as I stood in that trench, is my sweetheart still waiting for me? Somewhere in England, is she waiting at the shore, waiting for some notice of my life? How many are waiting? Waiting for the hundreds of thousands who lie dead in Flanders? How many wait at home for a knock on the door? Or by the sea, waiting for a boat on the horizon?